Hello everyone, I'm back. Me and Socks are back, and unusually we're doing a update in the evening. So I've been trying to get enough light into the room. You gonna settle, Socks? He's been settled all afternoon in my lap and all morning as I've worked here. I finished this yesterday, The Wishing Game by Meg Shaffer, and I enjoyed it in the end. It took the first half to really get into it. I think because I was sold on what it was about, with the kind of the pitch of it all, the blurb. I'd heard quite a lot that I was going to be reminded of Willy Wonka and Narnia and that whole business of reclusive children's authors and people coming into their world and their imaginary world turning out to be true. And it kind of is all of that. The story itself seems to take a little while to get going. I think there's a big build-up to our lead character arriving at Clock Island, which is the centerpiece of the book. Our heroine is Lucy Hart, who's in her 20s, and she's an assistant school teacher, and she wants to adopt or foster the child she's been looking after at school. And everything looks hopeless. She lives in a kind of a shared house. She hasn't got enough money to do what she wants. It's very bleak at the beginning in some ways. We also get a viewpoint from a fella who lives on Clock Island, who's the illustrator of the books and has been for a number of years. I forget his name. I'm terrible with names. Hugo. As soon as the book's finished, it's like they're all gone out of my head. And he's a kind of rock star artist who's on the island really looking after Jack, who's the author of 60 books in this series, an old, gay, slightly drunken, brilliant man who has had this huge success with these books. And there's a competition for super fans are invited to the island and have to compete through a series of games. And this is the second half of the book. A series of games in order to be given a prize, which is this single copy of the new book in this series after a long gap in the series. The games, to me, are the least interesting bit. I know that is absolutely what some people love. And actually, the fictional series of books inside this book seem as if they're all about games and puzzles and riddles. And I kind of can't be bothered with that stuff, really. It's either so hard it's impossible, or they're so obvious, the answers, that I just wonder, why would you bother? That's what I always think about puzzles and things like that. I'm much more interested, of course, in how the characters get along together. Didn't quite believe in the opponents that she has, the three other characters that Lucy has to tangle with and wrangle with to get to be the final person. It's an interesting thing because we know that she's going to have to win through in the spoiler space. I shall count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. You've got no one to blame for yourself, but yourself. Because it's a kind of feel-good book, and because it's light romance, really, the genre, she's going to have to come out of it well. We know, because Hugo's a bit sexy, she's going to end up with him. We know that they're not going to drag the child off her, and she's going to be left alone by the end, living in her awful shared house. We know because she's estranged from her last living relation, this sister, who wasn't very nice to her when they were teenagers. We know there'll be a kind of rapprochement at the end. We know she's going to end up following the line of the Willy Wonka narrative, and she'll end up inheriting everything. So everything's going to be fine for her in the end. So I can't really believe in the or invest much in the puzzles and the quibbles to get there. The only way around it would have been to put her in some kind of terrible peril. There's a bit where she climbs up a lighthouse to get a better view, and you think, great, she's going to fall off or have a terrible accident. It's a terrible thing to wish for in a book on anybody, but she doesn't. She just gets a better view of the house that she's going to eventually have for her own. So I don't know, that there wasn't enough to make me feel imperiled. Quite a lot to make you feel cozy, and I love stuff about painters working on books of fantasy novels, and you could see the kind of paintings that we're talking about, the kind of artwork, the kind of books we're talking about. It all made me think of the Del Rey covers of the Oz books from whenever that was, the 1980s. These kind of slightly strange photorealistic covers. Del Rey Del Rey and Ace Books had lots of covers like that, and in fact, Jonathan Carroll's The Land of Laughs has a cover very much like that, with fantasy creatures alongside very realistic-looking human beings. In some ways, The Land of Laughs is the book that this most closely aligns with, in that we go into the private fantasy world created by a great fantasy author. And The Land of Laughs, though, of course, is macabre and strange and ultimately sinister. There's nothing sinister about Jack's world in this, and I didn't quite believe in the books that are conjured up. We didn't get enough of them, rather. That was tantalizing. I wanted more. They seemed a bit generic in their mentions of goblins and wizards and whatever else. They weren't conjured. I didn't quite understand why the whole world was enthralled to these books, but then I never understand that kind of thing. I could never understand why everybody was cock-a-hoop over Harry Potter, which seemed to me, about public school and people just getting carried away with the idea of kind of really old-fashioned notions of snobby schools. But, they did go crackers about it. So I guess I didn't want it to be longer. I just wanted more danger, perhaps. I like the characters. I did like the characters, the principal characters, a lot. And maybe it's a book I'll go back to and enjoy more next time round. I think her next book is about different characters altogether, but it's in a kind of similar vein, in that it revisits the material of classic children's fiction. It seems to have a kind of a Narnia bent. I'm not ready to read the next one by her, but maybe I will next year. Yeah, she's the kind of person I'll give another chance to, I think. She's definitely readable, and she explores themes that I enjoy, and clearly likes the kinds of books I enjoy. I think, at least in terms of books that I feel nostalgic for. Yeah. It's a bit like reading Lev Grossman's The Magicians, where he's leaning heavily on the Narnia books. And with that, though, there was magic involved. There's no magic in this. Maybe that's what I'm missing. Perhaps that's what I'm missing, that it's entirely rational. There are no strange creatures that suddenly appear out of the woodwork. It's all the doing of a great kind of puzzle setter. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's something I'm looking for that doesn't need to be there. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I know lots of people have enjoyed it, and I think the cover's lovely as well. There's something about those colours. It's nicely designed. I like the Anglophile aspects of it too, actually. I thinking about it. There's some funny bits with Hugo, who is English, kind of, and his use of English idiom and how it confuses his American friends. That's all funny. Okay, now I'm in the middle of this. Nigel Slater's Toast, a memoir about eating. He's, I think, a kind of child of the 60s, and he's talking about the convenience foods and a mother who doesn't relish cooking. So there's lots of skin on rice pudding and instant mashed potato stories. But he writes really nicely. It's quite a comfy middle class childhood, which is kind of funny to look back at, and it's nicely done, I think. Even bad crumble is good, is the point I've just left it at. I'm not sure that's true, but it sounds like a lesson for life, doesn't it? Even bad crumble is good. Maybe that's what I feel about books that dip their toes into the world of fantasy, of kids' fantasy books. Even bad visits to Narnia are good. That's not true, is it? Because some of the Narnia books aren't as good as others. And I don't think I would revisit, say, The Last Battle with much relish. So maybe All Crumble isn't good. Anyway, rambling about crumbles. Maybe I'm hungry. I've got baked potatoes in the oven for dinner. I think I am hungry. I hope this light isn't too harsh and I look like I'm kind of ghoulishly bright. Okay, I will go and see you again soon in the next episode. Let me know below what you're reading and what you're up to. Okay, Socks is waving goodbye. He's not really. He's asleep.